The story of the birth of Jesus has been told and retold, and just when you stand back and realize what a startling impact this man's life has had on the whole planet, it's impossible to comprehend by any terms that we can, that the human mind can follow. Something happens for a little while. We go through fads in our particular lives. You know, the way people look, the clothes they wear, the music they sing, the customs in society. They come and go and come and go. We look back 100 years or so, and so much of it is so quaint and so different. We look back to my childhood and the fashions and everything. It's all just, everything is transitory. Except in the middle of this, we have this enduring reality of not only Jesus, but of Krishna, of Rama, and on the Indian side you have many other, Ramanuja and Chaitanya. On the Western side you have primarily Jesus, but then you have great saints related to him. Saint Teresa of Avila, Saint Francis of Assisi, various others. And you have this long saga, and every story from our perspective seems so unique and individual. And from our Western side, we feel there's more power in uniqueness. On the Eastern side, they feel there's more power in unity. The more one can be shown to be like another, the more one great master can be verified by how his teachings are consistent with another. From their point of view, instead of making that less, that makes it more. All of the effort on the Western side has been to show, in our strange ways, that Jesus was the only Son. That revelation, as one of my Christian friends put it, began and ended with Jesus. That was the whole story. I learned a new word recently, a Sanskrit word for which there is no word in English, because English-speaking people have never thought about these things. Forgive me if I pronounce it incorrectly, but the word is sampradaya. And sampradaya means the infinite truth. Sampradaya is one line that has been drawn out from that infinite truth to tell a story. So the life of Jesus and all that he told is one of these sampradayas. Sri Yukteswar, Master Paramhansa Yogananda is another. Krishna is another. Buddha is another. Every one of these masters has their unique way of bringing the story to life. But when you trace it back to the source, all of them are drawing from the same power. Now, at our particular time in history, we are at a time when there are two tremendous forces playing in the world at the same time. One of those is this powerful movement toward unity. And the other is it's seemingly equally powerful movement toward disunity, toward fracturing, toward dividing. I saw a story in the New York Times. It epitomizes the best and the worst of everything. The worst, a family from Syria has had their generational lives. They've lived in the same place for generations, in the same home. It's been destroyed. So they had to flee. They go to Jordan for a while. Eventually, they come to Canada. Here's the best of it. Canada has made a policy of welcoming immigrants. Canada has a policy of the ordinary citizen as an ambassador. So this family of 4 children, the parents and 4 children, arrive in Canada, and all these different people take it upon themselves to integrate this family. The oldest child is a girl, and she's 10. This is karma. She gets to Canada. She really loves being Westerner. She wants to be Canadian immediately. She's from Syria. She puts on ice skates, and immediately she knows how to ice skate. You have to believe in karma. Okay? So on a certain level, this family is integrating beautifully. But the daughter put on a headscarf. Why would I put on a headscarf? Not celebrate Christmas? Why wouldn't I celebrate Christmas like everyone else? So the father, especially, is becoming understandably agitated as he's watching literally generations of separate, distinct, this is how we do it truths just dissolving before his very eyes. And of course, nothing in the culture supports the kind of, I am the father of this family, what I say is law. And you just sort of, you can see it, you can see it building. So is their integration into Canadian life a success, or is it a failure? It depends on which side, where you're standing, what story you're following, which line you're clinging to, whether or not seeing it all come together is what we're seeking, or whether we need to keep it all apart. Now, the problem is our opinions really don't matter at all. We can have all the thoughts we want in the world, but there are forces that are so much greater than any of us. And I think we are living in those times. We are living in times in which, just as a quirk of the American democratic system, we can elect a president who actually more people want someone else than the one we actually elect. And so we can shake our fists at this system or that system or all these different things, but there's a force always happening in the world, which is the grace of God, that we're not really in charge. That in actual fact, all of these divine energies are playing themselves out. And we have an obligation as beings of free will to use our judgment as best we can. But the real examples of how to live in this world are not those who live for a season and then pass away. The real concept of beauty is not what's fashionable today or what was fashionable yesterday. What matters is what endures for eternity. And this is why we keep coming back, even to the extent of having a little baby in a manger sitting behind me, why we keep coming back to these individual sampradayas, these individual stories that have been played out from the whole, not because the baby in the manger in itself is something unique to worship, but because it's an entryway for all of us into the power that is the only saving grace, really, to take us through whatever times we're living through. Whether we're living in a period of unprecedented peace and prosperity, or whether we're living in uncertain times in which we ever know the challenge for the human being, the challenge for the individual soul is always the same. And sometimes the ease and comfort of this life creates more of what Master called the anguishing monotony than the constant challenge of unexpected change. But one way or another, it's going to happen to us in this world in one incarnation or another, that the underlying unsatisfactoriness of life without God is just going to break through. And no matter how hard we try, and yesterday in that long meditation I was reflecting a lot about, despite all my years on the spiritual path in this lifetime, and God knows how many incarnations prior to this one, there's still a bigger piece of me than I'm proud to admit that's just trying to make it work in this world. That is just still thinking, if I could just exactly what Master says Satan does, it would be so easy to just adjust this small thing. And if we could just adjust this small thing, if we could just buy our community and have control over the rents, if we could just do something about the traffic, the increasing traffic in this area, if we could just get a campus for our school, if my hair would just grow and be a little longer again, It doesn't matter, isn't it? It's just fascinating when your mind goes to rest. So we go into a long meditation, and of course, the consciousness at the spiritual eye, lifting the energy with the Kriya, doing all our techniques, feeling the presence of Christ, all of those things, and then the oddest little waves go through. And what I kept watching is every little wave that went through was saying to me, just a little adjustment, just a little bit of change, and then it'll be fine. And of course, I'm philosophically very well educated. I can articulate brilliantly why that isn't true. But who cares what I can say? The heart vibrates with these longings. And the spiritual path, Swamiji often said, meditation, people talk about calming the mind, but it's really not the mind that's the problem. It's the agitations of the heart. Because when the heart is completely at peace, this is where the likes and dislikes live. It's the heart that thinks this way is the way of happiness and that way is the way of suffering. And if I can just push it toward the happiness side, then it'll never go back to the suffering side. And one way or another, in one incarnation or another, Divine Mother just keeps pushing on that. And the Christmas story, of course, as Swamiji said, we know the end of the story. We tease ourselves by welcoming this little baby and thinking just like every parent would think when their little baby is born, all the plans and ideas and ambitions and hopes you have for that child. That's why parenting can be so agonizing. I think that's why I didn't do it in this lifetime. Because that soul that has come to you to raise has really come to follow its own destiny. And no matter how hard you work to mold that destiny toward what you know will make that child happy, it's all very well intentioned. That soul has its own destiny. Sometimes it's joyful, sometimes it's not. Sometimes the life is meant to last, sometimes it's not. But just as all of that is there, when this baby is born, we have this, we share this myth that we get to play out together, which is this marvelous simplicity of this birth. But of course, this birth is not really for the individual. This birth is talking about coming awake within all of us, this joyous freedom of our infinite potential. Isn't that what the joy of a baby is? There's this infinite potential there. Happiness to share in the family, happiness for the life that this one is going to lead, the satisfaction of the parent of giving themselves selflessly to really help another person's life. These are very true realities. There is no greater joy in life than pure selfless love. Not just love itself, but pure selfless love. Just giving for the pure joy of giving. That's why the nature of the divine is bliss. Because the nature of the divine is just pure giving. And the closer we come to that, without any thought of self, where everything is lost in just the joy of the joy of. And so this baby is born, and there's this enormous, marvelous pageantry that we, in this temple, we play it out to the max. We love this story, and we bring the angels, and we bring the wise men, and we I want to use the word milk it for every ounce we can get with the music and everything, because what it reminds us of is so obvious, the birth of Christ consciousness within. And now that is something really worth celebrating. Because that is the joy without a shadow. Because it all, as I was saying a couple of weeks ago here, it all seems to oscillate all the time. And so even in the calmness of meditation, this little thought comes, If I could just move it that way, away from this way, then everything would be better. But in our meditation yesterday, David read to us this letter that Master wrote. And the letter was extraordinarily inspiring, but it was also all about challenge. Who's to say, Master said, that an easy life is a victorious one? And he says, whether war rages around you or life proceeds in contented peace, he said, I will stand with you. I will give you, he said, my good karma and help you through it. Now you see, this is the story that each one of these masters brings to us. And they bring it to us in their own person. And that own person is central to that story. Because somehow or another, the human mind has a very difficult time understanding this as just an abstraction. And one of Swami's beautiful Christmas songs, one of his most beautiful ones, is called Looking for a Friend. And the singer is the voice of the seeker. And he meets the shepherds and he meets the kings. And they're on their way to see the Christ child. And then he says, can I go with you? Because I too have been looking for a friend. When Master talks about the different ways in which God can come to us and which we can come to God, he emphasizes that friendship is the highest form. Because friendship, he said, is the only relationship in which there is, he uses the word, there is no coercion. Nothing is forced from you. There is no duty involved in friendship. Friendship is the free gift of one heart to another heart. Parental love, mother love may be more self-sacrificing, but once the baby begins to grow inside, the mother has no choice as to whether or not she's going to give birth. But the friend always has a choice. And in a real sense, that's really what the divine longing is. That's why that song is so beautiful. Isn't that what we're all really looking for? We're looking for someone who freely chooses by their own will to love us. And there's no question then, am I worthy of this? Do I deserve this? It's freely given to us, looking for a friend. And on the other side, what are we looking for? Someone whose love we can trust. And so these great masters come, and of all the countless humans who ever incarnate, this is the one friend who will never leave you. Because this friend has only one intention, and that intention is to stand by us. This is what Master said in his letter to us that was read yesterday. No matter what happens, I will stand by you. Now think about that, which I'm sure you all have. You remain our friend. That's what we sing in the Festival of Light. You remain our friend. Though eternally rejected, no matter what happens in this world, you remain our friend. Swami wrote that to represent the crucifixion in the oratorio story. And Christ on the cross, what is Swami going to say? And here is, from the side of those that Jesus came to help, the ultimate betrayal. We have responded with the least possible appreciation. And then what is the response of the divine to us? He remains our friend, our true friend, standing next to us no matter what. There's nothing we can do that could ever separate us from that divine friend. And so Jesus comes, and that's how all these centuries and years later is why we can meditate all day yesterday, and we'll celebrate today, tonight, next weekend again, all gloriously. We'll just continue to celebrate. What are we celebrating? We're celebrating the presence of perfect love, accessible through this particular form, but that's just a route back to this single reality. every heart, every human heart there is, whether it knows it or not. When you live as we do, in a very not isolated way. I've lived part of my spiritual life very isolated and more of it integrated into the world around me. My, there's a lot of different people in this world, aren't they? And all of them are singing different tunes and approaching life in different ways. And I see people and I'm just so interested in how little inner life so many of them have. And just how capable they are of just entertaining themselves step by step by step. It's the football game today, and it's the people coming over for dinner tomorrow, and it's whatever it is, day after day. And I'm not judging. I'm just observing how we can go so many incarnations, just pushing it this way and pushing it that way and pushing it this way and pushing it that way. And even after all this time sitting in an 8-hour meditation, there the same thought comes to me. But the difference between being anchored in God and still hoping that now that I'm anchored in God, He's going to also make it work for me in all the ways that I want. Well, that's the spiritual path, isn't it? But what happens to us is really very simple. We taste the superior joy of true divine love. And as Master says, once you've tasted nectar, you'll never be content with anything less. And somewhere, sometime, in all of our incarnations, Divine Mother touched our hearts. And even if we try to be satisfied with something else, it always cycles back. And that longing awakens, and we try, and we try, and we try again. That's what Master also said to us in his letter yesterday. Just keep trying. It's just such beautiful advice. The spiritual path somehow, especially for me lately, has come down to be very simple. And the simplest words I come to, they're not elegant, they're not beautiful. Don't give up. Just like that. Just don't give up. Sitting there, I was actually counting, I think I've done 45 Christmas meditations. 1971 was the first, and by the grace of God, I've not missed a single one. And still, there it comes. And all I can think is, well, Master, this is what you have to work with. What can I say? I would bring you something else if I had something else to bring you. But this is what we have, so just don't give up. And I was so touched by Master saying that same thing. Just keep trying, he said. I don't mind, he said. I don't know how he put it. It was more elegant than that. But what I heard was, it doesn't matter how much you mess up, dear. I don't mind. That's like little children. They make these big messes, and it's so cute you can hardly stand it. They're just, I remember Davy talked about her son came to him once, and her son came to her and said, I didn't do nothing. She said, honey, where did you not do nothing? He said, in the closet. And when she went in, he'd opened all the vitamins and just poured them all out on the floor. Who knows why? Who knows why? I remember visiting a friend of mine once, and we both realized that the two little boys hadn't been heard from for a long time. They were in the kitchen and they were cooking. Cooking, in their case, it consisted of pouring a lot of stuff out on the counter. Just a lot of stuff, cereal, milk, sugar, just stuff on the counter. And it's like, and you mind, but not very much. There's something so adorable and so touching in the heart. That's why we bring God as the baby here. Because everybody can love a baby. And once you begin to love with that absolute trust and freedom, then God can say, you see, this is what I'm bringing you. And this is what you need to bring to me. So here we are again, one more Christmas, one more big chance to open ourselves in the purest and the cleanest kind of way. And we do our best. And Master promised us, he doesn't mind. Whatever you are, bring it to him. I didn't do nothing, sir, in the closet. I didn't. Oh, okay, show me. All right, here's what I didn't do. here's what I didn't do. This is who I am. Allow him to love us. We are looking for a friend, and we have one. We have one. We will always have a friend. God bless you.